Welcome to the Clean Power Hour Live. I'm Tim Montague, your co-host. Check out all of our content at cleanpower.group. Please give us a rating and review on Apple and Spotify. That helps others find this content. We bring you the latest solar, wind, and battery storage news every week with my co-host and PV Magazine journalist, the commercial solar guy, none other than John Weaver. Welcome to the show, John.
We also do spaceships and sometimes robots. And
Absolutely.
so,
Life just wouldn't be the same without spaceships and robots. And as Elon likes to say, we want to have an amazing future. And that's what we're trying to create with the energy transition, an amazing future, not a future where you live in London and it's 100 degrees. Who wants to live in London when it's 100 degrees? I don't.
I'm certain that everyone who listens to us pays attention to what's going on, but I'm just going to bring it up. Um, a British military base shut down because they couldn't launch airplanes because the temperatures were outside of the engineering range that the original engineers who used the material used to build. So they had a certain temperature range. They let the runway go up to this temperature, say we need these materials, and that temperature range has now fundamentally changed. And a friend of mine, an associate of mine from Italy, he mentioned it. He goes, yeah, well, the temperature of 40 degrees centigrade in northern Italy, is normal. And so we have military bases, of course. We have airplanes, and our temperatures don't have that issue. But so it's not fundamentally that the tarmac can't handle it. What it really is that when the engineers were picking temperature ranges and then adding safety margins, because that's what they do. They said, oh, well, this temperature is right and this material is right, but not anymore. Reality has changed. Reality has warmed. And, you know, 40 degrees, 40 degrees centigrade, which is 100, I guess, in U.S. temperatures.
It's
But
ironic. It's
uh,
ironic, right? Because we're melting the Greenland ice sheet, and we're gonna shut down the jet stream, which brings warm water to Scandinavia and Northern Europe, which brings warm air, and then they're going to have a mini ice age. But in the meantime, they're cooking, and it's serious business. People are dying, and facilities are getting shut down. They had to shut down the railroad in London at some point too, because the rails were warping. So yeah, heat does strange things to materials. It makes them expand and melt, and if they're not designed for that, well, yeah, it's not pretty.
yeah, so just something I'm watching, and I read that thousands of people died in Spain and Portugal
Hmm.
due to this.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah,
I
they don't have air conditioning. It's not nearly as common in Europe as it is in North America,
yeah,
or at least in the U.S. So
just
when
got
it
to
gets
keep
super
working.
hot,
Yep,
sorry.
just got to keep working, man. Just got to keep working.
Well, we have to wake up, um, and I mean, I guess we're here to really encourage those amongst us who are already awake or nearly awake. Um, I break the world into ones, twos, and threes. The ones get it, the twos will get it with some additional education, and the threes will never get it. So we're talking to the ones and twos, and we need more ones in the world to put their shoulder to the wheel because the transition is massive and it's totally doable. We just have to get busy installing a lot more wind, solar, and battery storage and other forms of energy storage. Uh, I love all the thermal energy projects and technologies that are coming on, for example. But why don't we get into the news, John,
News.
and talking of energy storage? You found a story in Bloomberg on California and batteries. What's the story?
Um, California batteries are finally starting to be noticed as doing something significant. A couple of items over the last couple of weeks occurred, um, and Bloomberg covered it. I saw it all over Twitter, of course, right as it was happening live. But what's occurred is that we're now at about, or we're beyond 4 gigawatts power of batteries in California, and this is utility scale, and that 4 gigawatts is somewhere in the 10 to 12 gigawatt hour range. But that's our official number as of end of July, I believe, or end of June, pardon me, that we're just around 4 gigawatts, 10 to 12 gigawatt hours. And so that's cool. I mean, there we go. Step one, we have a 4 gigawatt battery with a 3 to 4 gigawatt output. So that's sweet. And that's, first off, just saying that's awesome. Now, what that's leading to is what this article was writing about, and two little headline numbers that occurred. One, energy storage batteries are now meeting 6% of peak demand. And
Yeah.
peak demand is, the big chunky number in the evening that's like 40 cents per kilowatt hour in California. It's just very expensive. It's pretty much 5 to 9 p.m. and the most challenging periods starts in June and goes through September, which I believe August was the peak period of the year generally for California. So we're now, we're grabbing more of that peak demand. That's huge. And just a thing to chew on, but for about an hour, batteries output at a higher volume than the nuclear power plant that's in California, and that's just sweet. It's just progress. We want nuclear. I mean, nuclear is great. I like nuclear, and I want that facility to keep running if it can. If California decides to shut it off, that sucks, but whatever. However, nonetheless, what matters today to me is batteries. Batteries getting charged by wind and solar, and driving the just doing their job. I mean, that's really what it is. Just batteries pushing and doing their job, and it's pretty cool. So
What I love about this chart right here is it is a peek into the future for most of the rest of the United States, right? This is the California market. It is the most mature renewable energy market in the country. And you see the importance of wind and solar in the middle of the day. They are the largest sources of power on the grid. But you also see the importance of, when the sun goes down, of natural gas, right? And nuclear. Nuclear is just a flat line there at the bottom. Not a big number because they only have one nuclear power plant, I think.
Yep.
But
it's a flat, beautiful, straight line. Love
yeah, it sure is beautiful. There's no doubt about that. And then that gray line at the bottom is the batteries, and it is obviously being used at a strategic time of day when the load is very high.
Yep.
And other resources are not there. And so everywhere could use more batteries. And it's okay if you have natural gas. It's unfortunately dumping a huge amount of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And so we have to phase that out as well. And we can do that. We just have to get serious about batteries and other sources of energy. I'm bringing a company, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but there's a company called Rondo Energy, and they make hot bricks with excess renewable wind and solar electricity. And so just using resistance heating, like in your toaster, which is very efficient, and then, but they can make these bricks 1600 degrees Celsius, so they can be used across the board for any industrial process you want, like making steel. And of course, you can make steam. You only need 500 degrees C to really efficiently drive a big, electric power plant with steam or other things, combined heat and power, etc. Right? So anyway, if you live in a sunny place like California or the Southwest, this electricity to thermal is going to be a big thing. And it's totally carbon free, right? Once you get that machine set up. So that's the key. So great story. I'm super pumped to see batteries coming on in California, and they're coming on in Texas too. Of course, I
Hmm.
think there's the mantra there is there's as much battery storage in the queue in the ERCOT queue as there is solar, and there's a huge amount of solar, right? I think 30 gigawatts.
No, there's 100.
Um,
100 gigs of solar in the queue.
okay, but
Yeah.
they're actually like turning on 30 gigawatts. I think next year, like it's getting the dozens, the tens of gigawatts of solar are coming to the market now in Texas,
Hmm. Yep.
and um, so anyway, it's there's a lot of battery storage coming to ERCOT, and I don't know if we're gonna see a map. Maybe you can put a link in the document to that map
Hmm.
because that was an interesting one too. The prices of electricity in ERCOT are very high now in the heat wave that's going on in the Southwest. Um,
See if I can find the live one. Market prices. Yeah, they real time market. Let's see. Yeah, they have some complexities. I mean, they're expected to be in the hundreds. Um, it's
I
challenging.
mean, we're installing about 100 gigawatts a year now, right, in the U.S., give or take.
No, no. We're in the mid 20s. We broke 100 gigawatts
Oh, sorry,
recently.
yeah, mid 20s.
Yes, mid 20s this year for
Okay,
gigawatts. Some people were suggesting under 20 because of all the stuff going on. At some point, we were projecting 35. So, but from my most recent things I've seen, I think we're doing mid 20s.
okay. So I must be talking cumulative numbers.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah.
there was a 30 gigawatt number that caught my eye that Samna was putting out, Solar Plaza. Um, they're doing an event in October in Texas that I hope to be at, and we are partnered with Samna on that Solar Asset Management Texas in Austin. I think it's October 25th, right around Halloween, and that'll be a great time to be in Austin. Um, that's when I want to be in Austin. I don't want to be in Austin right now.
No. I'm putting two maps that are into ERCOT, and I'm also going to find another one, but because I don't know the ERCOT market as well
Oh
as
yeah, that's the
others.
map I wanted. Let me see if I can get this on screen.
Yeah, but there's different maps, so just recognize someone may come back and be like, "Hey, you picked the wrong one. You picked a weird one," because there's all kinds of maps. I'm going to find some weird ones though, like to show pricing that where the geographies are weird and it shows you like.
Well, this says real time updated July 21, 2022 at 11 a.m. So that was 5 minutes ago. And you see here prices are in the high 70s into over $100. I assume that's what
Per megawatt
per,
hour.
per megawatt hour.
Yes, yes.
And then you see in the far south of Texas, it's very low or negative, and that's where there's a lot of wind power, and um, so that cheap wind energy is super abundant, but there's not a market for it, right? Because the grid is not complete. There's not enough transmission to get the electricity to other parts of Texas. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean the people live in the east, and the solar's in the west, a lot of it, and then and then the wind is in the north and the west, but in the southeast and the east is where the biggest population is. So
Yeah.
though they do have an amazing HVAC network, they have the C-Res thing, the power line system that surrounds it. It's it's not perfect yet. It's still growing, and so there's these cutoff points at these nodes, all those little red dots. And again, this may not be the exact chart for the exact electricity because this is other stuff. Um, I wonder what the select data thing down in the lower left, in the bottom center, lets me do. I wish I knew more about this market, but do the left one. What's the select data? I want to see RTM. Yeah, I
RTM
don't.
SPP.
Click on them just to see what they look like. Um, But these different nodes, that looks exactly the same.
Very
These,
similar.
yeah. So you can see sort of like that one. You can see where those each of those nodes are like substations and major interconnection points, and it's where energy flows. And every once in a while, you'll see where a node is the cutoff point, is the
Mhm.
issue
Yeah.
of transferring the electricity, and it's clear. Right now because Texas, the whole state is warm, the price of electricity might be a little strong, but really, it's strategically, there's people who look at this chart very, very much, and they're like, I'm going to find a piece of land that's on this side of the node, and bam, we're going to make some great merchant market, some live electricity sales. And Texas is going through its own challenges, and I hang out with people who are doing research there, so it's kind of neat to listen to them talk and say smart things, because it's a live, active, challenging market that's going on in Texas.
Yeah. So another story on PV Tech, Europe to roll out nearly 40 gigawatts of solar PV by end of 2022 in record year for deployment.
Yes.
Um, I'll get that on screen while you tell us a little bit about that.
It's just a lot of gigs. um, so the article is suggesting above 39 gigs. Who knows if it'll break 40, which blows away last year's record of 29 gigs or even 27, and which itself was a record of from way back in the day. And going from 27 gigs to 39 gigs. Let's do some quick math. That looks like about a 40% growth. 39 divided by 27, 44% growth. So 44% growth year over year from a record year. Now that's what should be happening during a transition. We should always be saying, "Oh, we set a new record. Oh, we set a new record." But Europe had kind of tailed off since around 2013ish when their market shifted. They went from being heavy deploy solar to letting the market cool off because of a recession, because of just dynamics. Too much solar, not enough batteries yet. I mean, we had no batteries, and so now Europe is coming back. And this doesn't surprise me to read this headline at all. Based after my trip to Europe earlier this year, when I went to the solar conference there,
Yeah.
Intersolar. Was it Intersolar that I went to?
Yeah, I
Maybe.
think so.
Yeah, I always mix up the names. But since that conference, when I was at that conference, I was listening to a bunch of residential guys, and they said they're sold out. It's sold out indefinitely. Like through the end of the year, can't get modules, can't get batteries, can't get inverters, doing as best they can, and they're not really selling. They're filling out paperwork based upon requests, and that's a wonderful market to be in if you can. So they're working, and it's interesting to watch. And records. We like records. We like deployment records, and it's not going to stop. Like Europe, the price of electricity in Europe is through the roof. And I just, there's a tweet I was thinking about sharing, but I share enough tweets, where a gentleman did a little work, and he said if you were building a solar plant in Germany right now, based on current electricity rates, and you're just offsetting use, you'll get paid back in about 2 to 3 years, Tim. And this is without incentives. This is just straight electricity. There's no tax credit. There's no this. There's no
Yeah.
that. There's just build it, plug it in.
Yeah, electricity is very expensive. All energy is very expensive, and it's getting much more expensive. And of course, now the Russians are toying with everybody and weaponizing natural gas because they can. And, they are the largest provider of natural gas to Europe. So, it is interesting how the Europeans are pivoting now. They have set a goal of reducing gas demand by 15% by next spring, March of 2023. So they're asking people to conserve. And, it is kind of an all hands on deck scenario. And now they're being just double whammied with the heat wave that's going on there. And, that's the weird thing is there are all these great economic forces driving the adoption of wind, solar, and storage now, right? Those prices are competitive, and so it's just pure economics are on the side of wind, solar, and storage. And now the climate is really getting weird, and it's extreme heat, but it's also extreme cold, as we saw in Texas in 2021 with that outage. So it's just, man, it's a weird world, and I guess we just have to get used to that, right? That is the new norm.
It's where we're at, man.
Be
And
ready.
that's yeah. And it's funny we brought up the gas price, and that's why I moved an article, and I wanted to pull one up. It's actually a tweet, and it's of a deal where China signed another deal to buy natural gas from the United States, and they'll start getting it around 2026. The reason I'm bringing this up, I'll see if I can find some live pricing, gas pricing, USA Natural, Bloomberg. So the reason I bring that up is because the price of gas in the U.S. is way up. And last year, natural gas was in the 2 to 4, 2 to 3.5, 2 to 3.25 range, and then it just popped. It almost touched $10, and it may have even broke $10. Then it pulled back from that $10 number and got down into the sixes because there was an explosion at an export facility in Texas.
Hmm.
This facility was exporting to Europe, and it represented like 20% of the export capacity that the U.S. has built. And it's all recent. We didn't start exporting natural gas until like 2017-ish, maybe. I think it was approved by Obama and then started moving under Trump, and now it's starting to fill out. Uh, so this facility blew up. The price of gas fell from 10 down to 6, 7. But now, I just added a link. Gas is back up over 7.99. So it's gaining on $8 again. And this gas drives the price of electricity in the USA. And the generation costs are going to increase. And will they double? I don't know. I don't think so because there's a lot of hedging. But over the long term, they will double, more than double. At least if we're talking natural gas, electricity from natural gas will double and triple in price. It already has. It's just right now it was at 2 to 3. Now it's at 7. It's at 8. So it's not tripling $3, but it's close. And so gas is our largest electricity source in the country right now. Um, it's we're we're gonna see the price of gas electricity go up in the United States from a structurally non-changeable manner. Well, not non-changeable, everything changes, but from a structural manner, the price of gas is going up, and the price that we're going to pay for it in the U.S. is going up, which means our electricity is going up. And this sounds terrible. I might get beat up sometime on the weekend, but I like it because we've been soft. We've been underpaying the price of our fuel, and we've been polluting with it and not dealing with a global capitalist market because of funny little rules in our country. But now it's coming, and the price of gas going up is going to be good for the solar industry, and it's going to be good to push us away from fossil fuels and push us toward non-emitting fuels. And so it sucks that our bills are going to go up, but long game, hopefully it's good for us. And it's structurally here for us. It's not going away. Um, so looks like Tim may have lost a connection there. So I'm just going to keep running my mouth.
Can you hear me
Oh,
now, John?
I guess Tim is back. Hey, Timothy, how do you do? We were just going to start talking about robots and spaceships. I had 17 callers that just rang in, and we're going over things. Can you
Yeah,
hear me,
sorry about
Tim?
that.
Yeah,
Now I have a horrible
you have an
echo.
echo, echo.
Maybe that's better. All
Yeah.
right. All right.
So
Let's go to your PV magazine story, John.
yeah,
Um,
fifty
U.S.
percent,
nears
baby.
50% emission-free electricity. Wind and solar set records. Solar up 23%.
So this is covering April, and April and May are our two cleanest electricity months in the United States, and every year. Um, And if you scroll down, we have a nice little chart that we put together. But April and May is the year that I hope to, or I hope next year, but probably the year after. It's loading a little slow, but yeah, there we go. So this is a great chart. So the top curve, the top line, is total emission-free electricity in the United States as a percentage of the total power grid. And you can see it was down in the 30s, and now it's approaching the 40s. You can see that peak at 45.1% in April, and hopefully it goes up next year to 48-ish, 47-ish, and then the year after, I'm thinking it breaks 50. And you can see the renewables number, the green line, which is making the biggest move. That's the second row. It's up. Unfortunately, nuclear is down. Wind is up. Solar is up. Hydro is also down. So renewables are carrying the bags of nuclear and hydro from a clean energy standpoint right now. Hopefully they keep going. But it's just, 50% is going to come, and we're going to celebrate. I'm going to go buy some beers and be like, Tim, 50%, and it's going to be a great moment. So we're getting there. We're getting there. It's not going to happen this year. May fell off because it was hot, but next year we're going to get like 48%, and you're going to hear me celebrate that. It's just another excuse to drink a beer. So.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how hydro is, it is subject to droughts, and when reservoir levels go down, you get less power out of your hydro facilities, and that's a phenomenon. So in the long run, we're going to be fine. It's just a question of how bumpy a ride is it going to be in the short run, right?
I hope we're good in the long run. I hope you're right. I feel negative sometimes and wonder about us. We're fools. There's no guarantees that we win, but maybe, hopefully, we'll stay on the horse.
Yeah, no, we have to be very careful. The great filter is real, and as far as we know, right? There's no other really good explanation for why we don't see intelligent life elsewhere than the great filter. And you see how delicate we're on the precipice of so many potential calamities here on Earth that are mostly self-created. We need to evolve faster. We haven't quite, our brains haven't kept up with our technology, basically. So, what are you going to do? Maybe Neuralink will help. Faster, Elon, faster.
Yep.
Ford signs deal with CATL, but makes other announcements as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, CATL is going to open a factory in the U.S. That is interesting.
Yeah, so I thought that it was an interesting article to bring up because Simon Morse, our favorite battery guy, he also highlighted what CATL or what Ford was announcing, and he was kind of happy with it. Maybe I should go find what he said, but there was a list of items that Ford did that were pretty significant. So, okay, let's see. Here it is. So Ford signs a deal with CATL. They're aiming for 60 gigawatt hours of battery cells in 2023. They're going to establish a 40 gigawatt hour LFP
factory
in North America, and this could be the Catl factory. Mustang is going to move to LFP, and they see 90% EV growth annually through 2026. So lots of growth going on with Ford right now, and a few announcements they made, and they also signed. Oh, here we go. They signed with a Utah lithium company to help them start to develop lithium in Utah, and so there's stuff happening. And
so Ford is getting into the mining industry.
Well, they're definitely signing a document with somebody. So here's what it says. If you want me, so Compass Minerals has signed a non-binding MOU with Ford with a battery grade lithium product from its lithium brine development that's ongoing in Ogden, Utah, which is a solar evaporation facility. So they get the brine, they let it evaporate, and it leaves solar or leaves lithium carbonate. And so they think they can get 30 to 40 kmt. So I guess that's kilo megatons, maybe. So I guess 10 megatons, 30 to 40. I'm not sure what kmt means, but I think it's kilos. So 40,000 megatons, 30 to 40,000 megatons.
Why wouldn't they
And
just say gigatons?
ah,
Picky, picky.
yeah, so I don't really, or it could be metric tons, not megatons, because they have right below it's MMT, which is million megatons, metric tons. So,
Yeah,
but whatever it is, they signed a deal with a Utah company to lock up some capacity, and
yeah.
they themselves aren't doing it. They have an expert who's doing it, but they're locking in some volume, and that's pretty cool. And that's pretty nice. So it's they're working at it, and Ford needs to. They're a big brand name. A lot of people trust them. They sell all these work trucks, and it'd be sweet if we had a bunch of Ford F-150s that were electric that we could plug in and use to help our grid, because that's going to be really important. So
Yeah, totally agree. Um, hey, I want to jump to a project or suite of projects that I'm developing in Tazewell County. I
is
am
that Illinois?
in Illinois.
All
I
right.
am developing community solar projects with EDPR, the
Mhm.
global IPP, as you know, John.
Yep.
EDPR is not a household name yet in the United States, but they have been doing utility scale wind and then utility scale solar and now distributed generation solar in the US for 10 years. Um, and this is very important for farmers and landowners. And I will put a few layouts on screen because the long and short of this is that landowners can triple their income on a per acre basis here in the Midwest by leasing their ground to solar developers. And these are long-term leases, so they're very consistent income for the landowner. One of our challenges is that people don't want to stay in these rural communities, the young people, because there's not much going on there, right? These are very rural places. The towns are, have a population of 2 to 5,000 people. And the action is in the cities like Champaign-Urbana, where I live, which is what we call micro-urban. It's many of the benefits of a big city, but it's a small city,
Hmm.
a small city of 150,000 people. So anyway, EDPR is in the business of developing and owning solar assets, right? And so they're just sprinkling these community solar projects now across the landscape. These are 20 to 40 acre solar farms, similar to the market in New York where you're active, John. And um, and we're going to convert those fields. So let me get this on screen from what was corn and beans, right? So here's one of these projects. This is a bigger parcel, and we're just going to use a part of the parcel on the north end of the parcel. There's a transmission line running across the middle of this parcel. That's what these gray lines are. And that's a no-go zone, right? For solar developers, you can't put solar arrays underneath transmission lines because the utility wants to be able to get to their transmission lines, right? They want to drive a truck there if need be, if something goes wrong with one of the towers and they have to get a truck there and then climb the tower and fix the insulator or rewire it or whatever they need to do. But when these 20 acre projects get built, and which we already have about 100 of them here in Illinois, and this is in west central Illinois, not far from Peoria. And Peoria is famous because there's a big Caterpillar facility there, for example. Here's another one. Yeah, that's showing. And different configuration, right? We just want rectangular parcels ideally, but we work with the landscape and we work around nature. We want to stay away from streams and wetlands. Here's a good example of that, right? This isn't like running water stream. This is just uh, a low lying area, and the farmers stay away from that and let it be a drainage ditch for their crops. Illinois used to be one ginormous wetland, John, which is hard to believe because it is no longer that, but it was a ginormous wet prairie before Europeans came and settled the land and converted it. But what are your thoughts about community solar? I'm just curious how you market and sell community solar to landowners.
Well, I mean, it's just a complementary income stream that fits, that's stronger than the crops. It's, we don't pay as much as Christmas trees, but you don't have to do any work versus Christmas trees. Whereas Christmas tree takes 7 years, 8 years to mature, and then you can sell it off. And that Christmas tree might make a little more work in absolute dollar amounts per acre,
Is that a
but I
real
guarantee.
world example where you ran into a Christmas tree farm and you couldn't compete with the income stream from Christmas trees?
Yeah, but we won because the gentleman didn't want to work as much. He was getting older.
Oh,
And he said he could only manage 20, 30 acres of Christmas trees
yeah,
anymore, and he couldn't manage the 100 that he used to run.
yeah.
And so he decided he wanted to change his income. And what occurred is that he made about 90% of the income that he was before, but now he was only doing half the work because the solar, he doesn't do anything, he just hangs out. And
Right.
he may have made a little extra money by getting sheep out there or something, I don't know, but it's just a revenue stream on your land. I'm not in direct contact shaking the hands with the landowners, but I know what they're. I listen to the sales conversations sometimes from our landman, and
Yeah.
it's just adding a consistent revenue, and the locals are okay with it because it's not a huge amount of land. It's not like 1,000 acres or 600 acres. You keep it under 50 acres, and most people are okay for an individual project moving through the town. So it's
Yeah.
it's it's a
And
little
of
bit of a
course, it's a
dance.
both and. There are bigger projects coming, especially here in the Midwest. We do have some multi-thousand acre solar farms that are being developed in Indiana,
Hmm.
and then
Like a
many.
huge one in
It's,
Indiana. It's like a
it's
gigawatt.
yeah, it's I think 1.3 gigawatts.
Oh,
Mammoth Solar,
mammoth.
13,000 acres is that project developed by Doral, which is a Israeli developer.
Hmm.
Um, but that story was in the news again. The Mammoth Solar project was in the news because I think PNC, the bank in Pennsylvania, I may be
Hmm.
misquoting that, but somebody just signed another big corporate virtual PPA for the fourth phase of that project.
Nice.
Um, but anyway, and then in Illinois, the way community solar works is if the project's in Ameren territory, which is the central and southern part of the state, then any any Ameren customer can subscribe to a community solar project, and then they're buying clean power from a real project, and they can offset 100% of their load with community solar and save money. They could save about 10% off their power bill by doing that, and then be supporting the clean economy and reducing our dependency on coal and natural gas. So if you can't put solar on your roof, if you're a renter, if you have trees over your house, whatever your scenario, and you can still participate in the clean economy. So that's what I love about community solar is it makes solar accessible to average people, not just homeowners, for example, right?
Well, so it's funny when you initially asked the question, it was, "Hey, how do you talk to landowners about community solar?" And so I was trying to think about our sales process, but then if you think about the accessibility, And the fact that a community solar facility, which usually maxes out at 5 megawatts AC, 6, 7 DC of solar panels, that's in the 20, 30 acre range, that can be deployed almost anywhere. There are many, many places which have 20 to 30 acres, and the deployability of it and the ability to get through zoning and get built, I think, is really big because you can connect these plants to the local distribution network. They don't have to have really big transformer upgrades or substation upgrades. Sometimes they do have to upgrade some gear at a substation, but they're not. You're not building a substation. You're not building a transformer that might have a 3-4 year wait time. Though some things have some goofy wait times these days, Tim. But with that, it's still. I like the size of the 5 to 7 megawatts
Yeah.
because we can have a million of these plants distributed around the country. I mean, there's like 300 million acres or something like that in the United States. Give us 10 million, give us 5 million, give us a million, and we'll power the country with little tiny doot 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 facilities all over. And if Mad Max World hits, and inter and cross community or cross state power lines get blown up, the locals will figure out a way to tap into these systems. And so I know that sounds weird, but I do like the fact that we have distributed solar storage, batteries, EVs, and all these things, because if the world goes a little funky and we lose our
Yeah.
larger structure, the distributed nature of it will support those who are, doing what they do in post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah, having a bunch of community solar arrays makes a lot of good sense for resiliency. Those arrays could become resiliency centers, kind of right in and of themselves, if there were some calamity that took the grid out. Um, Not that that calamity wouldn't necessarily fry the inverters on the solar array too, but
I'm just
um,
thinking about some bombs or something that take out large chunks of the grid, not a
yeah,
EMP that fries
yeah.
stuff. So, we're thinking we lose that Grain Express or something. I don't know. Who knows? This is me being negative and worried about us killing each other like we do occasionally.
Well, let's talk about the Quinbrook story.
Yes.
Renew economy. And what's the story here? Quinbrook is I think of Quinbrook as a company that develops very large solar and
Yes.
storage projects.
Yeah, and that's what this is. This is like a gigawatt plant in Nevada, and I wanted to talk about the pricing, and that's it. They put the pricing in the article, and I hadn't seen it before, and I was just like, oh, look at that. That is beautiful. Look at these numbers, and so if you this one sentence, which is a quote from their person. So they said, and I'm gonna double check on this facility, the sizing of it, but let's see. It's in Nevada. It's selling to NV Energy, and this is the okay. So it's a 690 megawatt AC, about 1 gigawatt DC Gemini project, and it's
Hmm.
coupled with a 380 megawatt battery at 4 hours. So we're talking 380 and 1500 megawatt hours. So 1.5 gigawatt hours. So 1 gigawatt solar, 1.5 gigawatt hours of batteries. And the pricing was just cool. So you have
Yeah.
$26 megawatt hour. So that's 2.6 cents per kilowatt hour during normal time, and then
Yep.
it goes up 6x, and your mouse is right there. It goes up to 15.6 cents per kilowatt hour during super peak. Now I don't know what their super peak period is, but that's coming directly from the battery, and it's selling probably into the 5 to 10 p.m. during the summer window. And so maybe in the winter that 15.6 number is only 10 cents. But it's just neat to see how they did the contract and how that uh, ended up breaking out. So 2.6 cents per kilowatt hour for just a straight solar, and then the battery energy at 15.6. And I just was happy to see that number. I wanted everybody else to see it too, and to understand how our economics are working right now and how a big facility is priced. So it's just kind of cool. That's our first gigawatt facility in the U.S. too. It's neat.
First gigawatt
Of
solar?
solar, yes sir.
Okay.
Yeah,
So is this
it beat the Indiana plant to development.
okay?
It I don't know who's going to get built first. I don't know what the pricing is. I know nothing else. I just know that this plant was announced before the Indiana plant,
Yeah.
and when Mammoth was announced, I was like, whoa, now we got two of them. Ah, and I was
Now,
totally
Indiana's
surprised.
under construction,
Yeah, that's cool.
but it's going in phases. You know, it's I think there's 4 phases. So,
Yeah, that halfway counts. You know, 4 phases. Oh, okay. But yes,
but
it's
so the Nevada project is under construction or constructed. Do we know?
let's see. I believe it's under construction, and
Yeah.
Kiwi is one of the builders. So there we go. Let's see. Primergy. I'm bringing it up. Are they are they doing it already? I can't tell if it's so. It says commissioning in 2023. So I would absolutely guess that it's without a doubt under construction. And I'm seeing pictures of people on the site.
Yeah.
So it's probably yeah, it's definitely under construction. That's without a doubt now.
Cool.
So it's pretty cool.
And then we have a story from Utility Dive on BLM approves construction for Starwood's 3.2 gigawatt Arizona to California transmission line.
125 miles between one substation and another substation, going from Tonopah to Blythe in California, Tonopah, Arizona to
Yeah.
Blythe, California, and that's cool. That's a lot of juice that's going to go from Arizona into Cali, and it's probably going to be all solar, is my guess. Could be some nuclear, but it's probably going to be all solar. And it's just good to see transmission get built because, you know, in the pie in the sky world, we could get to like 70, 80% of electricity in the US if we did a nationwide network without batteries. Like with the dynamics of the way solar works and wind, we could get like really high percentages of our grid without batteries. If we did massive transmission, HVDC nationwide, and easy, yeah.
Yeah, you know, the Biden administration has invoked the Defense Production Act around certain energy transition related things like solar and heat pumps and batteries.
Hmm.
And we need to do something, though, about transmission as well, because it's very cumbersome to develop these transmission projects, and we need lots of transmission. Like as I've probably said on this show half a dozen times, maybe not quite that many, but you know, if we had a ginormous HVDC ring around the globe, we wouldn't need any storage, right? The sun is always shining somewhere. The wind is always blowing somewhere. We just need to get the power from A to B. And the way to do that is with transmission. And HVDC is my favorite, but you know, do it with regular high voltage. That's fine too. High voltage AC, high voltage DC, whatever. Um, but but we have to get serious, right? We have to figure out how to do this faster, cheaper, and in a more streamlined manner. That's the biggest impediment to, as far as I see it, the energy transition, or one of the biggest impediments. It's not access to the technology, it's not access to the materials, it's the ability to deliver the product in a timely manner. So many projects are bogged down, and then, you know, like in PJM, right? They've put interconnection on hold now for 2 years for larger projects. I mean, that is just that just keeps me up at night, John.
It should. It should. It's something to be stressed about. We got a lot going on.
Should we do one more story?
We should do 10 more stories, but one story is good too.
Take your pick.
Um, you know what? I want to do the very next one on the document because I have a question, and if anybody were to ever answer it for us, I'd be super interested. The residential installation here that's going on in Europe,
The
and this
LinkedIn
is a
story?
yes, sir, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay.
And one day I would love for somebody to educate me on the installation technique and what that technique could mean in the U.S. or not, because in Europe roofs are done differently than the U.S. I watch, but I don't understand how much differently and what the difference is. So, if you're looking at that project that I linked to, you can see them installing these residential solar panels on the roof, and they install this network of plywood underneath. And I'm wondering if that plywood network is the fundamental nature of solar roofs, of roofing in Germany or in Europe in general, like, or
Well,
if that.
when you put a tile roof, there is that network. Yeah, that is standard for a tile roof. So I'm guessing that's what this is a replacement for. I mean, it looks like a solar shingle to me.
Yes, it is. It is a solar
Um,
shingle. Yeah.
do you know who the manufacturer is?
Um, eh,
Schweitenhauser.
realized with Schweitenhauser, what a beauty
I
to
don't
the
know.
next level roof,
It's,
solar roof tile. It looks a lot like the Meyer Burger tile, but I can't tell because it's mostly in German. So
yeah,
I, I don't speak it. But
yeah.
so Tim, so if I were to install a tile roof in the United States, like just like those in South Florida, I'm used to red orangey tiles, Spanish tiles. Is it a wood lattice underneath those types of tiles?
I'm going to venture to say yes, but I'm not
Okay.
100% certain.
So then
I've honestly, I've seen a lot more tile construction in Europe. It is very common in Northern Europe to use tiles,
Mhm.
and Southern Europe too. But yeah, it's funny how that's such a regional thing in the U.S. Like you see it more in California
See it
and
Florida, left
and
and right.
Arizona with the Spanish architecture, and then Florida. And is that Spanish inspired architecture as well? Probably.
Well, I would be super interested to learn if that type of roofing structure can be deployed in the United States, because it seems to be whenever I see these tile roofs in Europe, they always have this wood lattice underneath them. I've never seen a wood lattice on a roof in the United States.
Uh,
And I'm waiting for this type of product to get. And here's where it comes down to: it's UL. So when we put these building materials on top of roofs and we certify them, are we going to allow this type of product to be built? Are we
yeah.
going to and I want to see it, and I want an opportunity to sell this product because I think homeowners will love it. 50% of homeowners are cool with the look of solar panels. They're like, yeah, whatever, who cares? And then 50% are like, nope, not doing it. And we want to get beyond 50% rooftops. We want to get to everybody who's got a roof, and we want everybody to be like, yeah, those solar tiles look okay. Whereas others would be like, oh, they look great, and others will be like, I don't care, just put some solar. So wonderful. I just want a product for everybody, and we don't really have a nice solar tile that's wide and available. As we were talking in the pre-show about Tesla setting some records for solar deployment. They finally, for the first time, announced some volumes of their solar roof being deployed, and then they stopped doing it in a bunch of states. So we're still flaky, and like GAF and Certainteed, they're not really solar tiles. They're the old style solar shingle product, which might be great. We just gotta see some scale. So I just want to see more residential products, and this product I keep seeing it in Europe. Haven't seen it in the U.S. that much, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing this stuff get approved and get through UL.
Yeah, like I said about California, if you want to peer into the future, the energy future of where you live, go to Europe. That is the future. They are 10 years ahead of us. Even though we invented the stuff in 1954 at Bell Labs, they glommed onto it sooner. Probably because energy is expensive there and it's not here. We just happen to have a lot of cheap energy in the US, artificially cheap, of course. We're using the sky as a dump. It's now full, and we have to quickly back away, not slowly, but quickly back away from from that. It's finite.
Yep.
The atmosphere is like the fuzz on a peach, and it's a very small part of the planet. It's 100 miles thick. So go for a 100-mile drive, John, and then you're in space, right? Which is pretty wild.
What an interesting thought. You're absolutely right. I never heard it with the fuzz on the peach. That's a neat analogy.
My dad taught me that one.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Ugh, what a scary. It is interesting that you just barely go up and you're there. But I could drive all the way to Florida and I'm still nowhere. And
Yeah.
so that's kind
And
of cool.
it's really hard, right? Because gravity is strong. Um, it's hard for humans to go that 100 miles to space. And we are grateful for Elon for doing that. Um, Unfortunately, Elon is totally crazy. And so I worry about his mental health.
Maybe he's always been crazy and we just get to see it now more.
Yeah, well, and when you get older, you get wonkier, and we're seeing the cracks. But what are you going to do? It is what it is, right? It's a whole package. And well, anyway, we digress. Well, thank you, John. Wonderful episode. I really enjoyed talking about all this wind, solar, and battery storage news.
Hey, can we do
Um,
one more thing?
Sure. What's
Just
that?
look at a picture. Just click that last tweet. I want to show off where we're at. I really liked the picture the other day of my little site. We still have some ground clearing to do. We're going to distribute some dirt here, but that's our racking. That's
Oh,
our
yeah, definitely. Let me
system
get
coming
this.
together.
So remind us, where is this project?
Dartmouth, Massachusetts, on the south coast of Mass. It's about 226 kW DC, and those are racking. That's a racking system from APA Solar. I believe they're based in Ohio. And this is our golden row. We just started piecing together all the final pieces just so we could have one thing assembled. There might be actually a row right behind this picture because there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. No, that's the fourth row. So that's the short row. We'll do some dirt here soon. We'll scrape up some more of these roots. And we also have some tree cutting on the south side. We have about 11 trees that have to come down. This area was mostly just scrub brush and had prior been cleared for other stuff. That's why we used it. But we had a whole bunch of crap on the ground that we had to rip up. 6 to 8 inches of just random stuff. But we're moving. And we had to do some drilling, some extra drilling in the ground because there's a very rocky site. But it's coming along, and it's kind of neat. And I'll tell you, it's really hard to do 2 jobs, Tim. It's hard to work on a site and give them a respectable amount of time and be useful for those guys and then be a solar guy in my 9 to 5.
It took me a while to get that on screen.
Oh,
StreamYard doesn't make that easy, but
it's
that's
not on the
great.
screen yet.
It's great to see this project. You're seeing that, right?
No, not at all. Let me see if I can share my screen.
Oh,
Oh, there it is. Now it's
how about
beautiful.
now?
Now we can see it. Beautiful.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's our golden row right there, where we just set
Yeah, I was
everything
going to
up
say, for our listeners who don't know what a golden row is, that's kind of
Yeah.
a thing for construction and solar installers. So what is a golden row?
The golden row is the first row that you fully install and set up so that you and your team can know what you're going to be doing for the rest of the project. So we set up the rack, we set up the screws, we install everything once, and everybody's like, oh, that's what we're doing here. Great. And then after that, you
Yeah.
install the rest of your project. Now, we didn't do a full golden row here because we had poles and other timing things, but in terms of attaching all the little components, there's actually modules on some of this right now. This picture
Sure.
is from 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
But it's our first little setup, and this is cool from my perspective more broadly because it's commercial solar guys' first fully developed, fully constructed, fully built, fully procured, etc. project. Prior, we had been the development partner. Maybe we did engineering, but we didn't pay for everything the whole way. So this is pretty cool for us. So
Yeah,
that's it.
it's a good feeling getting these projects out of the ground. It's a process. A fast solar project like this would be a year, soup to nuts, from when a contract is signed, but it's usually a little longer,
Yeah. Yeah.
and sometimes much longer, unfortunately. But well, thank you everybody for listening. Please reach out to us. We love to hear from our listeners. We want ideas for topics and speakers to come on the show. We love having guests, so reach out to us. You can find me at TG Montague on Twitter. That's also my Gmail handle. And my website is cleanpower.group. That's where all of our content is. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. Click the YouTube icon and subscribe to the channel. And give us a rating and review on Apple and Spotify. That is how others will find this content. How can our listeners find you, John?
CommercialSolarGuy.com. You can find me there. You can also visit Twitter, Solar in Mass, Solar in Massive Amounts, or Massachusetts, but Solar in Mass, and then last but not least, of course, LinkedIn. And I write for PB Magazine USA. Been a little slow over the last 2 weeks, been on site, been visiting family, summertime vacations, so, but CommercialSolarGuy.com.
You can also find me at Clinton Lake. I've started to sail there a couple times a week. And Flying Scott. It's a small sailboat, 19-foot, beautiful little boat. And we have nice, consistent wind. So I'm grateful for the Clinton Power Station, which is a nuclear power plant 50 miles from my house, because they had to build a lake to cool that sucker off.
That's kind of neat. So now you get to go on the lake. Hey, and so if you bring Tim a beer, I bet you he'll let you ride on his boat. So.
Oh, yeah. Bring it on.
Yeah.
All right, John. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.